I remember sitting in my apartment in Emeryville with shoes all through the house, shoes up the stairs. You can't get up the stairs. I got too many shoes for this small apartment. Telling Adrian, how can I get my own shoe? How can I get my own PEs? How can I be in a commercial? How can I have my story told? And so I want to go somewhere where my voice is heard, where my opinion matters, and most importantly, has room to grow, and I can help take the brand to the next level.
Welcome to another episode of the SoleSavy podcast. My name is Marco Henry Negrete, and today I am joined by three-time NBA champion, Golden State Warriors All-Star, to many the best basketball defender on the planet, Draymond Green. Welcome to the podcast.
Take us back to a year ago. You became the second athlete in recent history to sign a deal with Converse, joining your now teammate, Kelly Oubre. As a longtime Nike family member, what was it about moving laterally to Converse from a business opportunity to a branding opportunity to even on the court, of course, that made that so appealing to you?
I think number one, like you just mentioned, standing in the Nike family was extremely important to me. For the first 8 years, obviously all of college, high school, I've been, pretty much all my life been wearing Nikes, so just to have the opportunity to stay in the family was incredible. I think also for me, in my 7 of my 8 years, I had the opportunity of working with Adrian Stelly, who moved over to Converse and is now obviously, running the brand from a sports marketing standpoint. And over the course of those 7 years, we built an incredible business relationship where, we've done a lot of things together. And that's coming from starting as, a second round pick and telling Adrian Stelly, Stells, I think I can be an all-star in this league. He like, well, go do it then. And I'm like, well, Stells, y'all got these guys on commercials. Well, I'm not on commercials. Or, these guys got PE shoes. Well, I got PE shoes. And he like, go play. You go do it. I'll take care of the rest. And that's kind of where our relationships started building. I think somewhere maybe during my third year, I started getting my PEs, and you just kind of started to see that grow. And to build that business relationship was incredible, and see what Stells was doing on the business side for me while I was with Nike, and he was the West Coast rep. I think I was able to understand his vision and his goals, further beyond what the athlete may understand. And so knowing how committed he is to being great, and whatever it is that he does, and the vision that he had, I felt that was something I wanted to be a part of. Obviously, understanding the history of the brand, it's more of a blue chip, hard-nosed brand, and that's just who I am. And so that was something I thought I wanted to align myself with. And then you get to the point of, all the off-the-court shoes, all the off-the-court gear, and just where they're taking that to, very swaggy brand, and just kind of willing to step outside the box. And, as an athlete, you don't always have that opportunity to where your sneaker company is listening to the out-of-the-box ideas that you have and actually putting them into motion. And that's been incredible.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think people often forget that at companies like Nike and Converse, there's the athletes that are, of course, validating the shoe, the most important aspect to that shoe being successful. But then there's the people behind the scenes who are just as committed, who probably love basketball and love sneakers, get to know you, see your vision, and work with you over the course of now almost a decade to bring that to life. I feel like people don't talk about that as much, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and kind of teams within the team at Nike, at Converse, that are saying, hey, I'm Draymond's guy. I'm going to make sure that where I'm going, he's taken care of, and we're on this journey together. So I think that's a cool point that you made there. Rewinding back to the Nike days, you had the opportunity to debut a lot of really cool stuff. The first one that comes to mind for me was the Off-White Hyperdunk on court. The 10 was taking off, and then to see that on court, it was like, wow, Virgil Abloh really made a basketball shoe, and to have it on one of the hottest teams in history, really, you playing that. I remember that being a moment, as well as the Hyper Rev and the Hyper Dunk. So it takes me back to the quote you just said about telling your guy, hey, I want to be in these campaigns. I want to be debuting these shoes. Do you remember the first time that actually happened, where he said, hey, you remember you asked me about this your rookie year, and now here you are? Do you remember you got that, whether it was a campaign or an on-court debut, where you feel like you kind of arrived on the Nike roster?
If I'm not mistaken, I think my first Nike commercial, if I remember correctly, was the snow day commercial. And there was a bunch of top Nike athletes, and we were, we were all home on this snow day. Everybody snowed in, and we're participating in this snow day, and like everyone's coming out of all these different places. We link up to play this football game on a snow day. I think that was my first Nike commercial. Like I said, I remember my PEs first coming in, and I was just like, I come into the league as a second round pick, and you see David Lee, you see RJ, you see Steph, you see Clay, you see all of these guys like with their PEs, and I'm like, man, I get the black and white hyper dunks that come. I get the white and black or the white and blue. These guys got all these different crazy colors. I want those. And so I remember when those first came. And then I also remember my first time being associated with the shoe. That was the Flyknit Hyper Dunk. I loved that shoe. It was incredible. It was the release of the new Nike React technology. So to kind of be the face of that was just like, man, that's the closest step to getting that signature shoe. Is that what's next up? And that was extremely exciting. I remember for years growing up as a kid, watching, how Nike did that with different guys, and they would be the face of said shoe. Kobe was the face of the Hyper Dunk. I think it was 2K8, and so kind of to move into that space and be mentioned in the same light as those types of guys, essentially moving up the totem pole, that was an incredible moment for me in my career.
Yeah, you mentioned coming into the league, and as you and your team grew, you started to see guys like Steph and Clay get their signature shoes and really start to become faces of brands. How much does that motivate you? Because you're starting to get your PEs, but this move to Converse seems like, hey, I am also a superstar on this team. And does it feel good now to say, hey, now I'm kind of leading my own path with my own sneaker with Converse?
Absolutely. That was, like I said, that was extremely important for me and something that I wanted to do. But yeah, I also didn't want to do that with sneakercompany.com. I wanted that to be with a very reputable brand, because just because you get your own sneaker shoe with some company doesn't always mean it's great. That doesn't always leave you in the best position to succeed. And I think one of the most important things when working with the sneaker company is what stories are they telling? That is extremely important when you speak of growing your own personal brand as well, is what stories are those companies willing to tell? And I think there's no surprise, or no debate, that the Nike Converse family is the absolute best at telling stories. And so if you can be in that family and growing and continuously moving up, or constantly moving up the totem pole, where you're kind of becoming the face of more things, and you have that storytelling behind you, it's a match made in heaven. And so I think for me, as much as, I wanted to have my own shoe, to have my voice heard in different things that I want to create, whether that's off the court sneakers I want to create, whether that's apparel, whatever a story that I wanted to, a sneaker that I want to create that's telling a story, whatever those things are, to make sure that's heard, but yet to still have, for that brand to have the cachet to where it matters. And looking at that, it wasn't just all about, man, I want to go somewhere where I can get a signature shoe. It was, I want to go somewhere where my voice is heard, where my opinion matters. And yet, that brand is still important, and most importantly, has room to grow, and I can help take the brand to the next level.
Yeah, I think people overlook the storytelling component to sneakers, because at the end of the day, it's a shoe, it's rubber, it's leather, it's technology, but what does it mean to people, right? How do people feel when they put it on? So the fact that you were thinking about that as you entered this partnership with Converse has me curious. I was saving this question for later, but now that we're talking about storytelling, what is the Draymond Green, the Swarm colorway of the G4? What's the story you want to tell with that? How do you want people to feel when they put that shoe on?
When you're speaking of the Swarm technology, obviously, there's the Bumblebee graphic in the insole of the shoe. When we first initially designed that shoe, the Bumblebee graphic was on the sole of the shoe, to where you can see it, and it was kind of a clear bottom. Obviously, there's always so many things that you have to get approved and, legal and all those different things. So the Bumblebee graphic ended up on the insole of the shoe, but still allows, still a part of that shoe story, and allows the story to be told. What do bumblebees do when you go near their hive? They protect their hive. What do I do when you come near the paint? What do I do when you come near my teammates? What do I do when it comes to the media disrespect of what the Golden State Warriors has accomplished in my time here? The disrespect is that, what do? I protect my hive. That was kind of the story of the hyperswarm. You go near a beehive, bees come going crazy. They come you get too big of a beehive and you gotta call an exterminator, because the bees start going crazy as you try to knock their hive down. And so it's all about protecting your house. Another thing that I loved about it is it's black and gold. I went to Saginaw High School. Our chant, sweet, sweet black and gold. So it just kind of gives you that nostalgia feeling. I love gum bottoms. So that was one of the things that I asked for on this sneaker. The gum bottom would also hit well with the black and the gold. And so that's kind of the look I was going for. And as I said, when you think of the Converse brand, you think of the Chuck Taylor, you think of the Converse weapon, you kind of get that nostalgia feeling. So how do we continue to keep that feeling in the current shoe as we continue to progress with more and more styles?
Definitely. And speaking of that swarm mentality and your role within your team and on the court, this season has been an up and down one for a lot of people, including the Golden State Warriors, and we're counted out a lot. And to see how you guys have bounced back, how are you feeling right now as the season ends, getting ready for the play-in tournament? Where's your mindset right now, basketball-wise?
Man, basketball-wise, I'm in a great space. I feel like I'm playing my best basketball of the year, which is, if I could ever draw it up, that's how I would draw it up. You're heading into the playoffs playing your best basketball of the year. That's the most important time of the year to be playing well. One game can change the series. One series can change the season. So it's extremely important to kind of be revving it up and, starting to head towards that peak at this time of year. Like you said, it's been a very up and down year with COVID. COVID has played more of a role than people know, because you look at it and you say, okay, well maybe this team had nobody that had COVID all year, or they had one or two guys that's had COVID. It may have not affected them as much, but the reality is it still has affected every team. There was a point in the season where we were testing 3 times a day. You would have to get up in the morning and between 8 and 9 a.m. go test. Go to the facility and test, and then obviously practice was starting later in the day. You go back home, you do whatever until that time, then you go back. Then we would have to test between 5 and 6 p.m. Then you have to go back to the facility and test between 10 and 11 p.m. On the road, you get up at 8 a.m. to go test. You go play a game, you test after the game. You fly to the same city that night, you get into that city, you test again. That takes a toll as well. That takes a toll on your sleep schedule, which in turn, we're athletes. Sleep is extremely important to recovery, as well as the emotional and mental fatigue of taking that many COVID tests daily. That's made this season even tougher. Now, in saying all of that, here we are. We're here now. We finally made it to the playoffs, a couple games away. And this is what we all play for. So to get through that, you also have an appreciation for the journey and what it's taken to get through this season. No matter what has gone on, we stayed the course. And here we are now, sitting in the AC, all things considered, especially with an extremely young team. I feel pretty good about where we are.
That's great, man. And switching gears back to the sneaker stuff, I think the idea of being a sneakerhead in the NBA and beyond the NBA is so popular now, right? Everybody's a sneakerhead, the tonal photos, et cetera, et cetera. You're a little bit more on the quiet side. You flex, but you're not the guy who's going to be on Instagram every day showing off his collection. But you've been doing this for a really long time, dating back to high school, wearing the Aqua 8s to prom, and then even at Michigan State wearing some Jordan 11s. Well, we'd like to take questions from the SoleSavy community, and Ian Stonebrook, who helped us prepare for this interview, is from Michigan, and he remembers some of those early days in high school and college when you were rocking sneakers. So I'm curious, when did that journey for you begin, when sneakers became more than just a tool for basketball? It became about style, it became about personal expression.
I've always loved sneakers ever since I was a kid. The reality is we couldn't afford many of them. So, I always wanted the new Jordan that came out. I always wanted the new pair of Air Force Ones that came out, the Nike Prestos that came out. Whatever the sneakers. I've always love sneakers. So then it became, okay, how do you get those sneakers? One of the ways I was able to get those sneakers was improving in basketball. Now all of a sudden you start to build a relationship with Nike in high school. You're getting a shipment every now and then because you play for a Nike AAU team. That helps, living in a single parent household where there's not much extra income. And you start to figure out how to get all of these sneakers. Then you get to college, spending my Pell Grant on every Jordan that comes out on Saturdays, and really just trying to build my sneaker collection up. I've always had that love for sneakers. Earlier on in my career, I would kind of mix it up, and wear some Jordans here and there, wear some pennies here and there, different sneakers. I know you mentioned the Virgil Abloh Hyper Dunk. Over the course of my career, I've worn different sneakers. Now, the reality is you also have to understand the business side of it as well. And so, as I continue to grow in my career, understand the business side, further understand the business side of it, I didn't want to continue wearing all these, older sneakers, because I wanted to further understand the business side and what that means. And so I kind of took a step back. And then the reality is this: I see a lot of people in the sneaker game, in the sneaker business, in the NBA wearing their kicks. And I'm a winner. I like to win. If I'm going to dive all the way into this, sneakerhead thing, as far as kicks on the court and the sneaker crown and all this stuff in the NBA that everyone does now, the reality is, with what PJ Tucker does, I can't win. So why am I about to compete? I can't win that battle. I don't. And so when I see other guys trying to compete with PJ Tucker, I don't understand why they're wasting their time either. That's his lane. He's completely taken over and dominates that lane. He's going to get sneakers that no one else is going to get. And he's going to win that every year. So why am I going to waste my time? I don't like putting myself in battles that I can't win. And like I said, quite frankly, PJ Tucker just owns that. And so that was, believe it or not, a huge part of me stopping was I can't compete with PJ Tucker. And I also don't understand why everybody else is trying to compete with PJ Tucker.
Yeah, I hear you on that, man. I know you're short on time here. So for the last question, I wanted to ask you, you hear this all the time and you acknowledge it. Draymond this, Draymond that. There's always these headlines, but at the end of the day, throughout your career, all you've done is win. What does the Draymond Green times Converse G4 Swarm, the fact that you are leading such a historical brand, what does that say about your work ethic and who Draymond is at this stage in his career as a veteran?
I think it says a lot about my work ethic because, quite frankly, I was never supposed to be here. I like I said, I came into the NBA as a second-round pick, and at that time, the word tweener was used to essentially say a guy doesn't have a position. And at that time, it was kind of a death sentence. You're labeled as a tweener. Overcoming that term alone was extremely tough. Being one of the guys to help not only kill the word tweener and make the word irrelevant, but essentially have other teams looking for what they no longer call tweeners to add to their roster, that feels great. And that part, due to that, is the reason I am here on this interview today. It's the reason I am one of the faces of the Converse brand. It's an incredible position to be in. It's one that I don't take for granted. I remember those conversations sitting in my apartment in Emeryville with shoes all through the house, shoes up the stairs. You can't get up the stairs. I got too many shoes for this small apartment. Telling Adrian, how can I get my own shoe? How can I get my own P's? How can I be in a commercial? How can I have my story told? And so, it is the reason I am able to sit on a Zoom call with the Converse design team and design this Hyperswarm shoe. And it actually has a story behind it, a story to be told. And it's indicative of who I am, of my career, of the way I've gone about making my name in this league.
Well, there you have it. Draymond Green, Converse G4 Hyperswarm. Thank you for joining us on the SoleSavy podcast. Best of luck as the Golden State Warriors make a push for the postseason. And I can't wait to get the Hyperswarm G4 on court myself. See you next time.